the school, but like that's where she got her master's and stuff, and they've been living there.
Two Beers Deep. Welcome back. It's Thoughts from the Bench on the screen. It's Two Beers Deep. Sometimes it's Thoughts from the Bench. Other times it's still Two Beers Deep. We need to rein it in one day.
100% 2 beers deep, 200% thoughts from the bench.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have a very short show, so we're just going to crack the beers and get talking. Tonight's show is not really about sports, not really about the Stillers. We'll say that for the group chat.
Yeah.
Greg and I are going to discuss Agatha All Along because to keep this going, it's just what Greg and I want to talk about because we're best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck you guys.
If you have a problem with that, then don't watch. I don't care.
3, 2, 1, action. Yeah, apologies to Chris Winters, who likes when we play games. He does watch the YouTube channels after late on the weekends. But I have to head out at 6:30 today with Bean, a bouquet of flowers, and Wingstop to go pick up Kat from the airport.
She asked for Wingstop? Okay.
She didn't. We were gonna get, I think we'll probably get it on the way back. But she was just like, look, like I just want to sit on my couch and eat something. So we're getting Wingstop, and then we're going to Sonic's to get their drinks because their drinks are good. And then
can't go wrong with that.
No, not at all.
That's good boyfriend material. Going to 2 different chain restaurants specifically because it's one of your girlfriend.
Well, we also got to get gas, so 1 for me, 2 for her.
Well, I like that. What you drinking tonight, bud?
I'm just garage beer again. Light beer as it can be, garage beer because I got to drive here in a little bit. What about you, bud?
Nice. So I picked up a new variety 6-pack, but instead of going for the fall stuff to start off with this one, I just figured like let's end summer, which one, in my opinion, the top 3 summer beer, Hell or High Watermelon, baby.
I'm not big on watermelon beers, but Hell or High Watermelon is delicious. Like, Hell or High Watermelon is the only true watermelon beer I can think of off the top of my head consistently. But at the same time, I've tried other ones and just haven't been in love with them. But that's a great one. That is a summer beer.
I can't think of too many other watermelon beers off the top
I've tried,
of my head,
like, when I go to a brewery, I've tried, like, their watermelon beers, but none of them are so.
There's like a variety pack there's a variety pack.
Ballast Point has one. Emergency Drinking Beer has one.
Okay.
Not too many, yeah.
I can't remember what the name of it was, but it's like, but I remember drinking like a variety summer pack that had like a watermelon beer, it had a mango beer, it had like some other stuff, and this was like years ago. But like I distinctly remember the watermelon beer, and it was okay, but it just didn't have like a strong watermelon taste to it.
Yeah.
But this is just delightful, so can't go wrong with
And
that.
I am in the camp of drink summer beers until it's time. Now that being said, like, do I love a good like? Would I drink a pumpkin beer right now? Of course. Like, I would drink
It's
a
the season.
Halloween beer right now. But I also I probably would drink a Sam Adams Summer if they're running a special on it because they're trying to get rid of it. So
Oh, for sure. Listen. Always take advantage of the off-season sales at beer
yep.
distributors if you must, because here's the thing: like, there's nothing wrong with drinking like a light summer beer in the fall and stuff. Because I mean, sometimes the fall beer is a little too much, a little
I'd
too
agree with
heavy.
that.
Like, I mean, like, listen, like I'm on the journey to find the best Oktoberfest in Pittsburgh right now, but I don't feel like drinking a Marzen right now on a Thursday night. I want something light, refreshing, and easily digestible.
So let's dive in. We don't have too much time, but we have enough time. I watched Agatha All Along last night. Greg watched it after, so we will officially say at this point forward all spoilers because we are going to talk about the episode as it is.
Yeah.
Let's start right here. Did you think my text of fuck in all caps when you hadn't watched it was good or bad?
No, I thought it was good.
Okay,
I
okay.
can't
You
imagine.
instantly thought it was good, and I was like, interesting. Like, episode 3 of Agatha All Along was as enticing and perfect and pulling me in as any episode of a TV show this early into a project I know nothing about has. Now, I'll say, for example, Moon Knight episode 1 drew me in, and I was in from episode 1. Agatha All Along, I'm a champion of. I think it's fun. I think it's Halloween. It's different. This episode is the episode that made me text people who love Marvel and say you have to watch the show.
Right. What I dug about this is that it's officially set off the episodic nature of what to expect moving forward, and I love that because
100%. That's
because
100%.
I didn't fully understand what we were going to be getting
Yes.
with the entire show. Like I understood after the second episode. It's like, okay, they're going to be on a journey through the witch's road, but like, what's that going to entail? And now after the first episode, it's like, oh, it's going to be an episode that basically takes on like trying to figure out like why each of these witches are there for a specific reason. So
Which
I love
is
that.
perfect. So there's a couple reasons I think this was a perfect episode that I'm now proud to tell my Marvel friends they have to watch the show. The first and foremost is so we have this wonderful lady named Sherry who actually asked me to send her all the podcast stuff. Who just started to work, head of brand management. She's awesome.
Okay.
I had mentioned to somebody in the kitchen, like, do you watch this yet? Oh, it's amazing. And she was like, what's amazing? And I was like, oh, the new Marvel show Agatha All Along. And she's like, oh yeah, I've seen it. Like, I've seen stuff about it. She goes, I love Kristen Heigl. Is it Katherine Heigl? What's her name? Katherine Hahn?
Oh, Katherine Hahn.
Katherine Hahn, thank you. How
Katherine
did I
Hahn.
say Kristen Heigl? She goes, I love Katherine Hahn. And I said, I started trying to pull back the nerd. I said, I'm so obsessed with this show because they're making the character her. Like, Agatha in the comics, we've talked about this, is just this kind of random character that's tied in with Mephisto and tied in with the kids.
Totally
like,
different. Yes.
Not this prominent. Nobody, if you listed every character, she would not get a show.
No.
But because it's such a great character and it's such a fun experience and she's such a good actress, it makes the show for me.
Oh, for sure. Like, listen, there's nothing wrong with, because I guarantee you after they did WandaVision, because WandaVision was the very first Disney Plus like Marvel entity.
Yes.
I guarantee you when they made that, they did not think at the time that Agatha was going to have her own spin-off show at all. But as we all remember correctly too, as we were drawn into that mystery, we all loved Katherine Hahn's portrayal of that character. So it was just kind of like, fuck, we want more. So why not? It was
disagree with you on if they thought she had a show. The only reason being the Agatha All Along in the WandaVision. Like, and Marvel's plan. But I think that they didn't understand we would appreciate it this much. Like, they probably had a plan, and they're like, and if it doesn't hit, we can cancel that show and not stress.
Right.
So let's go through the episode a little bit. So where we're sitting, the witches are on the first two episodes. Really, the only things that I'll pull out there I loved the realization that her car was in her living room and she hasn't left the house. Because to me, that was
funny.
but
Yes.
that was the ultimate, like, oh, she's in a hex, the rest of the town is not. Because when he says howdy neighbor, and it's like, oh, she's actually like funny. That was a huge pullout. Teen, I think everyone's like understanding who the character is, so I'm gonna get your theories on that because I don't align with the actual theories of it, and a ton of really cool stuff. But for me, the episode 2, when they introduced the Salem 7, real quick, like opens the door, Salem 7's coming. That was the first time in this I was like, thank God there's something spooky. Like, thank God there is an element of Halloween that I am scared. Greg, when I tell you, flat out, man to man, I was not prepared for the hallucinations at all.
Really, even like I had a theory that that's what it was going to be because as they're drinking the wine and they talk about kind of like all the poison stuff, like I imagined like for spooky season, like there was going to be some sort of like.
But for it to be like
some
that,
sort of thing?
like that set. So there's two things that set the tone for the trials. One was that the fact that one of the trials was her almost getting drowned by a doctor we know nothing about. The fact that one of the trials was the old lady seeing death and the decrepit and the small Italian girl and like pulling that in. The mother with the Asian like it was amazing. We never got to see that with Mrs. Hart, Sharon. What is it?
Right.
The other thing that set this up as a show for me, that set this up as a very serious show. Now I don't know if I believe that she's formally gone, but was Mrs. Hart dying at the end?
I don't know if this is what's going to end up happening. Like, obviously, you can make the suggestion that Aubrey Plaza's character, Rio Vidal, was supposed to be the Green Witch for them to like be the one that's like going to master the trial. I don't know how she gets involved. But there is kind of like a scene in one of the previews where like there's a dead body that kind of like comes to life and like tries to, I guess, kill them or stuff in some of the trailers. Like that could be Mrs. Hart for all I know, perhaps as like a future reference. But but I get what you're saying about the elements of the surprise and stuff, because as you're watching it, you have to remember that yes, like this is supposed to be a spooky season type show, so therefore there's gonna be, I don't want to say jump scares, but there is gonna be elements of horror that's kind of needed to kind of guide that story as well.
Bean, shut up. Yo, question: did you watch Agatha episode 3 yet? Fuck, man, that's a sick shirt. Fuck.
You said you have a sick shirt?
No, you have a sick shirt. He's wearing a Man U shirt. All right, I'll try to use really broad terms. We're breaking down episode 3.
Is that Toby?
It is Toby. It is Toby.
Fuck Toby.
Greg said fuck you. So, yeah. He said fuck you too. All right. Yeah, I don't know. So let's go through what was your kind of your takeaways here, because I'm interested what parts stood out to you. Do you like the first trial? Walk me through. Yeah, let's see what you thought.
So I loved as I'm watching it, like, because the idea of a beach house was kind of like, okay, that's an interesting first trial. And then I didn't understand the water connection until as you realize like, oh, the drowning aspect is involved with it. Or
you mean the water connection from the door?
Yeah, the water connection from the door, the water connection from potentially like being drowned as a witch, and then also like even as like the main, like Jennifer's, like she is the main person that this is her trial.
Yes.
The fear of her is also getting drowned as well. So the water connections are interesting. So it makes me kind of more excited to see like, okay, how are they going to use fire? How are they going to use earth? How are they going to use, I think, air is the other one. So there's like a lot of
the interesting thing is
I can think
there's I'm aligned with you. But you got to consider there's going to be 5 witches. So there needs to be another version of an element that comes through. So if you look at, and I don't know other names, so you look at the old Italian situation, right? For me, she will represent Earth, because it is like in front of her was her daughter who was eaten by the Earth and was a corpse, and there's death. So she's Earth.
Yeah. It's divination too. Divination, by the way, that was divination. And it was also weird too, like seeing like all these like moments like during when she speaks, and then it's all of a sudden just like her like randomly like flashing, like saying something that's out of context completely.
Yes,
like that's going to be wild to come back to.
We can get to that because that's my next question. We can get to that after this. So the Asian girl is fire. She's in the sauna with her mom. There will be fire in that. In Agatha's, there's no true element.
I think it's because it's technically her coven.
Is
I
that
don't think she I don't think she represents an element. I think she's essentially the because she is the leader, I believe by default, I
yeah?
guess.
Which
I
which
think
is
because
she? There's a divination of potions. There's
mhm.
whatever the Asian
she
chick's
I
power
don't think
is.
she
Green witch
represents
is
anything.
healing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think she represents anything. I think she's just like the main entity. And in fairness, we also touch on this too. She touched on this like in episode 2. Her power isn't like given to her. It's something that like she kind of like consumes
hmm
essentially. It's almost like it's like it's the different mindset. It's like a succubus kind of where
hmm
like it just drains the energy from the individual and stuff, and that's how it kind of like gains its
Yeah.
strength and power. I don't know the connection for a witch with that, but that's kind of the logic with Agatha. But I think then the final trial is essentially her using every
Everyone's gonna
element
have
from
to hit her, and she's gonna have to eventually give those powers back, which is the final
yes,
test.
it's a
That's yeah.
trust, it's a trust faith. Which and here's the other thing too that's throwing me off. Agatha's walked the road, hasn't she? So
I
like
would almost guarantee she did not give the witch's powers back, and that's why everyone hates her. But then you would assume
or
she failed or something. So
or she's lying.
you don't think she's walked the road?
I I'm just saying, like, how was she not prepared for the first trial? I understand the
Well, I
trial
don't think it's gonna
is different.
be identical.
Okay, that's
Like now,
interesting.
now
You
let's
would,
think about that because the if you have a potions person, they would
hmm
need to make an antidote. It's
right?
it's not often like now. And in the defense of that, once Agatha gets the puffy face, she goes, "Time to make an antidote."
hmm
I don't think she knows which trial's coming. So, for
Okay,
example, if there was a trial that needed healing out of the wine and the wine started breaking through, that would be the Green Witch's turn to step up. I do think
okay,
that there was something where she waited because it was almost instantly after uh, the potions witch,
okay.
Jessica, knew what it was. She said, "Oh, you
hmm
have puffy face. It's this. It's this. Okay, it's this, and you can expect all these things." And then Agatha
Yeah,
goes, "Time to make an antidote." So I would
yeah.
say she
Or
presented herself as the speaking voice at the point.
but Agatha also held back and was not drinking the wine, and it was on to them to have to convince her that hey, everyone needs to drink it in order to finish the
Did
trial.
they?
So I find that fascinating that
Did
she
everyone
wasn't.
have to drink it?
Well, except for Teen. Teen didn't have to, but because he's not part of the coven. But
But that's.
still, like,
But I'm just saying, like nothing potions wise came from her having to, but it was about teamwork, which I get.
hmm
So I'm curious.
but I find it interesting that if she had the idea it was the potions one, that's probably explaining why she was so susceptible of not drinking the wine. So like she had the theory,
So
I
either way,
guess.
she could be. Yeah, that's a good point too. What did
So
you
that's
think about the? There was something you had brought up that I said I want to talk about that next. Oh, so the divination witch looks and says, "Say, try to save Agatha,"
yes.
and Agatha's like, "Okay." Now her mom was a divination person, Agatha's or something like that. There's a tie in there somewhere. New Rockstars we're talking
Don't
about,
remember. I don't remember if she said her mom was the divination witch or
or the
not. I mean,
divination witch's mom was in Agatha's original coven.
yes, I think that could be the connection if I remember correctly. But in fairness too, like and here's the other thing that I'm fascinated about with, and we'll get to like Jennifer bringing up the thing later on about her son. That's
Mm-hmm.
a later conversation, but it's interesting is like when Agatha's held at the stake, is that the beginning of her taking on the power of the Darkhold? I'm assuming that
When
has to
Agatha
be.
takes which state?
So like in the flashback, so like in episode 8 of WandaVision, where you find her backstory, where she's like held at the stake,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
coven of witches, led by her mom, is trying to drain the power out of Agatha.
I
Right?
would say that she
So
already went and taught herself Darkhold things, so her son's already
okay,
gone.
her son's already gone.
Yep.
Okay, so I find that interesting then because then like her mom and her coven that she was a part of was already around when she decided to gain control of the Darkhold. So clearly there was some sort of connection where Agatha had something where she wanted to be more powerful than her mother, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
or has always felt like held down for it and believed the only way to do it was to give up her son.
I think
Which,
what they're gonna do,
man,
I think genuinely that it's gonna be very close to WandaVision, where
hmm
Agatha had a son who had an issue that
hmm
she was not powerful enough to do it. She sought out the Darkhold. The
hmm
Darkhold said, "Okay, but we're going to take away whatever you love the most if you get us." She got the Darkhold. Her son was what they took away. And so then she
hmm
was just standing there with the most powerful book, and she said, "Fuck it, I'm going crazy." That's my
mm
theory.
Okay. Now, I think the other things that we have to consider too is what exactly is teen?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Teen is unable to say his name. He can't give any of his backstory.
Well,
There
he
are,
technically can. It's the witches that aren't allowed to hear it.
well, us too.
Well, that's true. I'll give you
So
that. Yeah.
my question would be, who can hear it? Um, is it in what I go with that is it a spell that's specifically designed for witches, or is it a spell that he just can't say his name or his backstory? There's two clear and obvious guesses.
hmm
Number one is Billy Kaplan,
hmm
which is one of that is technically Wanda's kid, right?
It's technically, yeah, it's technically the one that was that wore like blue and red, who was like the she had two little kids like in her story. One wore green, which I believe is supposed to take on fuck, I can't remember her name. It's supposed to be like a element.
Wiccan.
It's supposed to be like a no, Wiccan, I believe, is Billy Kaplan. The green one is supposed to be like an
Oh, I'm
offshoot of
sorry.
Quicksilver.
Yeah.
An offshoot is supposed to be, it's supposed to be an offshoot of Quicksilver, but I can't remember the name of it. But the thing that I don't think that makes sense because like her
Tommy was the
kids
other one.
were yeah, thank you, Tommy. Her kids were not real,
That's where
you
I'm
know?
getting a really fucking lost with all the WandaVision kids stuff.
Yeah, like they weren't real. Obviously, like in Multiverse of Madness, like the one dimension, they clearly were real, but that's a completely different like entity altogether and stuff like that. So I'm struggling to think that that he's actually like, I don't think he's Wanda's kid because he talks about his parents. I don't think that he's like possessed by, Wanda's dead son or something like that because again, the son didn't exist. So I don't buy that theory.
So what they're saying is the in the comics is
Mhm,
that Vision and Scarlet Witch made William is his name, William and Tommy,
right.
two lost souls. Later, Mephisto reclaimed those lost souls. However, the souls have been transfigured by Wanda's magic. The soul of William was
Mhm,
reborn in Billy Kaplan, the eldest three
okay.
sons of Reform Jews, Jeff Kaplan, a cardiologist, and Rebecca Kaplan, a psychologist, living in the Upper
Hmm.
West Side of New York. To me, when you're talking about him saying, "My dad loves sous videing his steaks, my mom loves this wine," like stuff like that, it does feel very upstate New York stuff. So it would
Yeah.
be the those kids were fake, but the spirit of them, which, dude, my only issue with that is you are going to have a really fucking hard time explaining that in the MCU.
Yes, I cannot because I can't wrap my head around it because if we saw in WandaVision, she created that entire thing from her grief of losing vision. Like I don't buy for a second that she somehow got two wandering souls to manifest as her children. I don't buy it at all. So like I, it's an interesting theory. I just find it hard to believe that's gonna pull off. I more so believe the logic of that somehow, some way, it's Wanda's son reincarnated somehow. I
Yeah.
thought I buy more into that theory versus like
So it's William, not Billy Kaplan.
right
Okay.
or Nicholas Scratch.
Oh, Agatha's son.
Yeah, yeah, Agatha's son.
Okay.
I buy more into the fact that it's. And here's the other thing too. They even talked about this a little bit on New Rockstars. They said the spell on him is also amateurish and something. So I'm
Mm.
curious if So I'm curious because I don't believe he did it to himself
No.
because you're even like
No.
because in the second episode like you're even talking about how like he's trying to say his name and trying to give his story and Agatha can't hear it like he's oblivious to it.
Yeah, I guess my main questions stem from a couple different places. One, I believe that it's Nicholas Scratch. Two, but here's what I'll say. I want it to be Nicholas Scratch. I believe it's going to be some version of a Billy Kaplan because they're going to start making Young Avengers, and it's there and it's fine.
Yeah.
For me, too, I wonder if Mephisto shows up in this show because there are 2 spots for title cards still, and they did mention Mephisto for the first time in Marvel Cinematic history.
Ever.
History, too.
Ever. And in just an offshoot way, too. We spent so much time in WandaVision just thinking, oh my god, it could be Mephisto. Oh my god, it could be Mephisto. And then episode 3, it's just an offshoot comment. It's kind of like it's almost like a what the fuck moment from the perspective of like not excitement, but it's like that's how you introduce it, just like a offhanded comment completely whatsoever. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, which I love, but then he starts acting weird and all this stuff. I don't know. So Sacha Baron Cohen is apparently Mephisto. He has apparently been confirmed for Ironheart. All these things. There's 2 title cards the new rock stars bring up that are still available to be shown in the way that, Jonathan Majors was added into Loki, etc.
Right.
I'm interested in all of it. I think it's all good. But the other thing that is a complete unknown that apparently is... my buddy at work told me he saw spoilers for the answer to it, who Aubrey Plaza's character is.
So it's not Rio Vidal. It's not like a green. I don't even know the name Rio Vidal.
It's brand new. It's not in Marvel. It's not in any comic book. It's not in anything. So my issue is, are you gonna have if you mention? I think New Rockstar's right. If you mention Mephisto in an offhand conversation, you aren't just going to reveal Mephisto, because we're desensitized to it now. There's no more is it. He's a real thing. He's proven. It's a real entity. The only way that it could swing it is if Aubrey Plaza's character is, but then at the same time, why would Aubrey Plaza and Agatha have a history? There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I don't buy that theory because I think it's pretty obvious that Aubrey Plaza's character is the Green Witch that's going to have to face the trial at some point.
100%, but they're trying to figure out what the bigger story is. I mean, she comes out of the ground in the trailer.
Yeah, and unless Hart somehow Sharon somehow rises from the dead and then still finds out to be the Green Witch or something, which I don't buy, but no, that's the only logic I can think of. Now, I'm with you. If Mephisto is the other character in this king, that'd be fascinating. And I mean, it wasn't Mephisto in the trailer when they clearly showed a demon, in one of the episodes. I don't know if it was I think it was above Agatha. I'm not sure, or above Rio. I can't remember, but there's definitely a demon in the show. But were you kind of and I'm sorry, but when that happened, first off, that's where I thought you texted me saying fuck when it was oh my god, they name dropped Mephisto. But then as I'm watching it, I'm just that's it. That's how you decide to do it? That's so deflating. As everyone who's been figuring out when it's gonna happen, when they're gonna show this big bad, and that's just a casual name drop right there. It's what the hell? When you I was clearly shocked, but did you also have the reaction where it was that's how they're doing it? That's how you decide to drop one of the biggest Marvel villains ever?
I personally, so here's the answer to that is twofold. One, I liked it because the way they did it was of course people in the show know who that is.
Right. If you're connected to an occult, you have to, yeah.
Yeah, to them it's not some shocking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the other reason that I really enjoyed it and was okay with it and all that stuff is because it is a funny juxt to what we were all screaming about. Everyone, Mephisto. I mean, it reminds me of when this very much feels like when they had Quicksilver in WandaVision, but his name was Ralph Boner, and they're hey, haha, we got you guys. I don't think Mephisto is going to be this huge, big bad that he is in the comic books. I think it's going to be very similar to the deciding switch they made with Thanos, where he's not trying to impress Lady Death, he's trying to solve the planet. They've taken liberties. I don't think Mephisto is going to be some baddie that gets crazy movie credits.
Right. So it's not going to be he's not going to be like this end of the world type villain or entity altogether.
Very
like
TV
Kang,
show vision.
yeah, like Kang was supposed to be, or or Doctor Doom is gonna be. Like he's more of like, realistically, he can kind of be more of the Marvel TV version of the big bad within its own.
The TV shows
entity.
need their own big bad. That's not
and you are right. Like they have already talked about like he's the main bad of Ironheart, because I believe the story of Ironheart is going to be like a battle between technology and magic. So that'll be fascinating to see, because honestly, this show might perfectly lead into Ironheart, because that drops, I think, in early 2025. If I remember correctly.
Well, cool. Greg, any last words before I got to jet out of here? Any last thoughts about the show? Any theories going into the next episode?
I'm so excited to see. First off, I'm excited to see how Rio gets into the Witch's Road, because you need a coven to get in. You need to be like singing the song and stuff.
I have a theory.
I now want to. You have a theory? Okay. I also want to go back and read the lyrics of the Witch's Road song to like get an understanding of like the rules, and also get an understanding of what to expect, because there's clearly clues in that song that we probably didn't even think of.
I think 100%. My theory is that is the witch's ancestral plane. And so she kills herself.
Ancestral plane, like, man, I give you credit. Like, you were harped on this, but if that's the case, then this would be pretty cool, to say the least.
I just think it is, because then she could just kill herself and then show up there, but she would need to find a way to get out or something. Because she shows up almost looking like a corpse.
You know what? That's true. She does.
I know I'm on the ancestral plane ride, but...
You are. I mean, it looks like she rises from the ground, actually. So
that's what I'm saying.
So what if, like, when Sharon like was putting herself like in like the green muck or something like that, somehow Rio like got a notice of it, and that was her way in.
Maybe that's a good theory too. I do like that, because it is nice that the road is like alive.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. That like the sides of the roads act as danger to the witches unless if you veer off the path. Like that's actually very phenomenal to think about.
I agree. Well, good, Greg. A good, short, concise show, my friend. Apologies on the short notice of it. We tried to start a little earlier and did not, but that is okay.
That's okay. Life happens.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week for more sports and Agatha talk, but a little bit of both.
Yes, exactly. Tell Kat I said welcome home.
Thanks, Greg.